Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Peak Season Podcast. We are glad to have you with us today. Today, we have a banger of an episode, backed by popular demand, more PriceLabs work. How's it going, Tyler?
Doing good, Luke. Doing great. Thanks for asking. Yeah. If you listened and tuned in to our last episode, I think that was season 204, and we were talking about gap nights and minimum stays during peak season, right? And so during that podcast, we were talking about, well, what's going to happen with these July dates for Tyler, and because I'm more of that 7-night person. But Luke, like I said, being the wise Buddha he is, and good at convincing me, we are looking at switching it up a little bit at White Birch, and we have some weeks in July and or 1 week in July and a couple weeks in June that I'm gonna let Luke take over, and we're gonna strategize and talk through this and see how we set it up.
All right, cool. Thanks, Tyler. So if you were following along on YouTube, you can see my screen right now, and you can see that we have PriceLabs opened up for White Birch Cabin. So I'm looking at June right now, and Tyler has went through and black lined a bunch of stuff. We got some price increases, which is always good. Looks like some nightly mins came down. But just to look at big picture, I'm going to go over to the neighborhood data tab. And this is why we always preach that setting up a market dashboard is so important, because then you can inform good decisions based on a tab like this. So Tyler, chime in and ask questions, or stop me from going too deep too quick here. And for those just listening at the top, we're looking at a chart that shows pricing for the entire year. And at the bottom, we're looking at occupancy for the entire year. So these blue bars right here are where Tyler booked out last year, and the green bars are the ADRs at which he is booking this year. So I don't see a single green bar that is below a blue bar. So that means all of your prices this year are higher than last year. Is that probably correct?
Yeah, and that's a good thing, right?
We did increase pricing for the Airbnb fee swap. So
Yeah,
that's
there's that.
a little bit higher would be expected. If they were on par, that would actually mean you're
Yeah.
bringing in less.
Yeah. So
So-
Luke, I think one question that you are more knowledgeable of PriceLabs than me. I know a lot. I know enough to be dangerous, but let's talk through a little bit. We were just talking a little bit ago before we started the podcast, and one of the things I was like, last year I was like 70% booked in June, and I don't have hardly any bookings for June already. So I'm sweating it a little bit. And I'm sure we got some listeners there that probably may have seen that or know about that, and they're in that same boat. Where in PriceLabs would I go to kind of look at raw data to say, you know what, it's going to be okay, or shoot, I need to maybe make some drastic changes sooner than later?
That is a great question. So where I would be is right on this page right here. So for those of you who are just joining or didn't see how I got here, from the calendar page that we all know and love in PriceLabs, you go over here to neighborhood data, and then you go up top, you go to the settings, and then you pick your market dashboard and your comp set. So we have 13 comps here that, see, it's called Tyler's comp set. So we have 13 comps here that Tyler benchmarks himself off of. When you create that comp set, PriceLabs pulls in all of the data for those listings. So right now, these charts are only informed by that comp set. Okay. So I'm going to go down here to the occupancy section, and you might have to toggle on some of these filters depending on how you have it set up. But the solid gray lines are where you're booked. Then these light gray lines are where your comp set booked as a percentage last year. Like this weekend right here, Saturday, March 7th, the whole market was like, what does it say? 55% booked. So roughly, 6 or 7 out of those 13 listings were booked. So the other lines here, the gray and the red, the solid gray and the red lines show market occupancy right now and market occupancy last year today. So if right now you were worried about booking this weekend in March, we could look and see, well, the market occupancy is almost doing exactly the same thing as it was doing last year at this exact same date.
Yeah.
So the delta between these two lines and this top line is still pretty big. So there is still a lot of meat left on the bone for bookings to occur. Now, with that being said, only half of these comps are going to get booked, right? So I want to make sure that I am priced in probably the bottom half of the comps. So people are going to be a little bit price sensitive, right? Because there's some competition out there. So I'll look all the way up here at the top of this chart, and these are where your prices are for that time frame, right? Kind of riding right in the middle of the pricing to like the lower third, and that's exactly where I would want to be priced. Because if
Oh,
you were way up here and you're in the top 90th percent for pricing, there's
right.
a pretty good chance that you're not going to be one of the 6 out of the 13 that get booked.
Oh, that's a good point. I think this is a great graph because, well, A, when you hover through it, that
Yeah.
line shows on both the price and the occupancy, which is really nice. But definitely gives you a good picture to realize or to see at a 30,000 foot view. Okay, am I am I where I need to be? Is my pricing where I need to be? How are my competitors? And to Luke's point again, if you don't have your competition defined, probably important to do so. And Luke,
Yep, we've
I
got an
know this is
episode on that.
yeah, yeah. So, figuring out who is your competition and using that as your benchmark. But yeah, no, great point. I know we were talking about, and I think are we gonna show June or are we gonna show July?
I've got a specific date in June I want to look at first right here.
Okay, let's do it.
So this is really good data right here. So June 20th, last year the market got to 92% occupancy. Right now the market is at 66% occupancy, and last year today was at 33% occupancy. So what that tells me is there is a spike in demand above last year for this specific weekend for whatever reason. And you can see down here there's this purple thing. That's an event and holiday. So that is the weekend of Juneteenth. I
Yep.
don't know if perhaps a federal holiday being on that weekend is spiking demand. Maybe more people are off school, or maybe there's a school district in Michigan or several that now have Juneteenth off that didn't used to.
Well, I do know schools get out. Most schools, I can't speak for all schools in Michigan, but most schools
Yeah,
in Michigan get out that second week of June.
right. Okay.
So that's because normally I would start my 7 night men's. Like this year, I was gonna start on June 13th would have been that first 7 night men, and then so June 13th to June 20th check out, and then June 20th check in to June 27th check out. So it's
Okay.
probably a mixture, right? I think what we see probably here, Luke, is more parents or families that work may be getting that off, right? Because it's now a recognized national holiday. So I'm betting
Yeah.
that coupled with the fact that kids are already out of school, people are maybe taking some time away.
Yeah. So to bring that assertion down, or that feeling that we have, because all this is at the end of the day is just a gut feeling based on actual data. But if you were worried about booking, because you are available, I believe you might be
Yep.
available right
And
a little bit right there, it looks like. But I would your pricing is all the way up. Bless you. Your pricing is all the way up, like at the very, very top, like exceeding the top of the market. So
yep,
I would not lower your pricing at this point because demand is increasing.
right.
So,
No, that's a good
right
point.
now your comps are 66% booked and rising, and this is a time where we're going to be close to 100% occupancy if we do exactly what happens last year. But judging by the increase in demand, we're probably going to go to 100% occupancy that weekend.
Yep.
So, this is a case where you want to be price sensitive and be one of the last ones booked.
Yeah.
Whereas that weekend in March, I would want to be a little bit more occupancy sensitive and make sure that I book because it's only going to 50% occupancy.
Great point.
Now, if we had an inverse relationship in those, if last year occupancy this time was 66% and we're only at 33, that might tell me ahead of the market actually doing it that there is less demand for that weekend for whatever reason. So maybe that weekend falls on most school calendars when kids aren't out of school yet, or just something like that. So that might be a time where you want to be the first one to cut your prices a little bit. So we could see in advance using this chart that demand is actually going to be less this year over last year.
So let's take a look. Is there is on there, I don't know if that's under neighborhood data, Luke, or not, but what is what is my competition doing in terms of, are they requiring 7 night mins? Like, do I have an advantage? Is there certain booking days that are more popular than others? Let's dig into that a little bit.
So the best place to look at that is right in this tab. You can go down one more view to where there's this map, and then you can fill out a competitor calendar here. So the competitor calendar, unlike the market dashboard, you can manually add listings in. So if you know of a listing that is a good comp to you, you can actually add it in here and copy and paste their listing link, and it will show this screen. So it almost looks like PriceLabs data or PriceLabs calendars for their specific listings. So we can fast forward, just scroll right over here all the way to June. So we were looking at like the end of June, right?
Yeah, like
So
June
that's
20.
this week right here. So it looks like one place is just not available,
Yep.
like it's blocked or maybe it's not an active listing or something. Up at the very top is your listing. Here's another comp. Looks like they are,
There's 7 nights.
yeah, yep, 7 nights at ADRs in about the 800 range. There's another one down here that is really working that dynamic pricing, and they've got higher rates up in the $1,300 to $1,400 range, and they're on a 2 night min.
Nightman, yeah.
We got a couple podcast listeners at that place, I bet.
What's interesting though is this the what's the second to last, the stylish home with private beach. I feel like their prices are pretty comparable to mine. They may have started that 4 night earlier than I have because I just did this last night, but they're booking. I mean, they're getting some decent rates.
Yep. But yeah, it looks like they got 3 nights available here on a 4 night min. That's not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're doing pretty good. But it's a nice way just to look side by side your listing with some other comps in the area and see what are they doing. Am I way far off base? Is everybody at a 3 night min while I'm on a 7 night min? And the
Right.
answer is kind of like everyone's kind of playing their own game and they're all kind of spread across the board here.
Yep.
So, so I mean, I think based on this, it would just give me a license to do whatever I feel like I need to do. You're not shooting yourself in the foot, whether you're on a 7 night min or if you're on a 3 night min, as long as you have the
Right.
pricing locked in. So, going into July, you've got that 1 week and the end of July. Let's look at that before we close it out here that
Yeah.
we were talking about on the last episode. So this is July 24th through roughly August 1st. So last year, the market 100% booked. Right now, we have super high weekend pricing, right, for each of those weekends, and then we took the weekday pricing down low, sort of like we talked about,
Yep.
low relative to the market. But you can see we got these peaks in this little trough here. This is the weekend, weekdays, and then the weekend again. And let's look at the historical occupancy. So the market occupancy last year today was 45%, and the market occupancy this year is at 16%. So
Wow.
we actually see a little decline in
Yeah.
which
That's
strangely
kind of
enough is inverse to everything else on this chart except for one weekend. The red's above the gray for everywhere else on this chart. So we have increased demand everywhere except for the first week of June. I'm sorry, except for the looks like Memorial Day
yeah.
right here. So but it's also going to go to 100%. So I don't know if I'd put too much stock into that. We've also got we've seen nationwide lead times just coming down a little bit and demand coming in later just because there's uncertainty right now in the news and in the markets. So I wouldn't necessarily read too much into that. And like we talked about, the market is 100% occupied that full week.
Right.
So I'm confident that you will get booked. It's just, are you going to get booked at the super, super premium rate or are you going to have to go down slightly to get booked? But it's not like you're going to get nothing for that week.
Yeah. I'm fairly confident it'll book. I mean, I don't know what it is about that week, but that week has been booked twice now and
And we
canceled
had
twice.
somebody messaging us on the direct booking website trying to kick the tires on it
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. I mean, the demands. I think that, but that's a good point though, Luke. What we just said, like knowing that, am I really worried about it? No, because we've had two people book, we've had interest in other people, so I think right now I'm not overly worried about the July dates.
And if you're at 100% occupancy, you really want to be one of the last ones to book a lot of times. Now, I know you're getting super premium rates in here,
Hmm.
but you are still, even at super premium rates, like this whole chunk of here that I'm highlighting, what's that? End of June through the end of August, you were one of the very first ones to book at the highest rates, which is a super cool place to be. But at the same time, that what that tells me is your rates could go higher.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say. So what you're telling me is I left money on the table.
You probably did.
I mean, good to know. Good to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's
But I
why
mean, if you look at,
I need to make up for it in June and that July week.
yeah, so I mean, that comp set is no slouch. Like they're booking it at good rates too, right?
Yeah.
But they're still only half booked all through here. So I don't know. Maybe run it higher next year. Just keep bumping them up. There's meat on the
Real quick,
bone.
Luke, I wanted to point out, if you wouldn't mind, for those our listeners that are watching, hit the AI insights on the future prices and occupancy.
AI insights. Let's see.
Yep, right there.
Yeah, that's fun. Just to see what it says.
Sometimes
All
I'm
right.
lazy and I like hitting that button because it just gives me the high
Yeah.
level.
So high season, July and August, your prices are above the market. Low season, your prices are above the market. August 1st through August 7th, market prices increased by 50%. From August 23rd through August 27th, market prices increased by 39%, which I mean, I don't feel like this is rocket surgery to determine this.
Right, right.
But, um, from 21st of May through 23rd of May, market prices increased by 26%. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Occupancy analysis. Higher demand during weekends compared to weekdays is observed. Okay. Thank you. The
That's
market
about
is
it.
performing significantly better compared to the same period last year.
It's good to know.
Yep. For the next 6 months. Yeah. Strong seasonality is present in the market. We knew that. July
Surge in demand.
19th through 24th, occupancy increases by 43% compared to surrounding dates. It also picked out that insight about Juneteenth, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's just a
But I mean,
nice
I
little
think
high
once
level.
you, yeah, I think once you understand how to read these charts, that's all it's doing is, you know, it's shortcutting some of the observations that we already made out of these charts. But I'm glad it didn't totally disagree with everything we just put on this podcast. I'll take that. Yeah. Cool. Another cool thing that this has is how to use these charts. When you click on that, they've got little tutorials built in all through here.
Yeah.
So you don't take our word for it. Go in here, build out your comp set, then look at these charts, and then use the AI insights, watch how to use these charts, and just kind of unpack a little bit of the data for yourself. But the big thing is when you like Tyler and I were just doing, when we're looking at specific weekends or specific dates and time, and we want to say, hey, are we like way off base with our pricing one way or the other? This is a good place to go in and just kind of reassure yourself or say, yes, I am off base. I need to make a change. Ideally, before this line meets this line and there's no more meat left on the bone, way in advance. So that's what, when we talk about getting ahead of the market instead of reacting to the market, 90% of that happens in this tab right here.
Good point, Luke.
Want to see anything else before I close her out?
No, I don't think so. Uh, I mean, I hope that this is helpful to kind of see, right? Because sometimes it's easy to just go into PriceLabs and just go in and change little things and tweak it. But again, PriceLabs is so rich in data at your fingertips. So knowing where to go and how to use it, to Luke's point, just the helpful tutorials that are basically on the pages. Just my recommendation is always spend some time in there if you haven't been, and you're using PriceLabs because again, for was it $19 a month or whatever it is, it's super cheap. I mean, just use everything you can out of that system because it's well worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also a great resource if you are shopping for a property where you can go in And before I buy properties, I build out a market dashboard for that market, and I figure out exactly what the revenue looks like. It's probably better than AirDNA or any of those other places. I love AirDNA because the interface is nice. You can go through and look at all the listings and all that. But actually building out the market dashboard and seeing what the revenue looks like, it's priceless.
Yeah, I was gonna say AirDNA is beneficial for like I think more super high level. Sometimes like is this area like attractable, right? Like what's the rentability, investability, all those things. But I think PriceLabs from a pricing perspective of what you can expect based on realistic comps, I think the data is a little bit more or is a lot more accurate than AirDNA.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing to note, we've said it before, but I'll say it again, that PriceLabs data does not include cleaning fees.
Good point.
So AirDNA will include cleaning fees or scraped cleaning fees anyway. PriceLabs leaves all that out, so you have to recreate that on your own. Yeah.
Well, I think that wraps up, right? We're gonna see how these weeks go that I tweaked in June and July. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm still a little nervous, but I'm excited. And we'll keep everybody posted.
Hey, we appreciate you joining us on this episode of the Peak Season Podcast. And if you don't mind, I've got 2 asks for you. The first one, 5-star review, like and follow the show. It helps us immensely. The second one, we are on Instagram now, Peak Season Podcast on Instagram. We'd appreciate a follow on there. And everybody take care. We will see you later this week.
Bye, everyone.